Hello and welcome, it's Debs here, and as always it's great to have you with me. So I wanted to talk to you today about a post that I put on Facebook about having bad days. So I put this post on, about having a difficult day, and it got quite a bit of interaction because let's face it, we all have difficult days, don't we? None of us are exempt from that. But I wanted to expand on the post a little bit. So first off, let's have a look at the post. So I will actually read the post to you. So we all have difficult days. If you're having one, or if you're in the middle of a run of difficult days, I want to remind you of something. The fact that you can have a bad day tells me that you're a normal, fully functioning human being. You don't need fixing or changing or putting right. Relax, be kind to yourself, and wait for the world-class self-writing system that comes as standard within you to do its thing. Hang on in there. You are love and you are loved. So that was the post. And the bit that I wanted to expand on and talk a little bit more about here is the fact that if you are having a difficult day, a bad day, then this doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It doesn't mean that you need fixing. And I know, if we just have the odd bad day or the odd bad time, then I feel that we kind of know that. But sometimes we can get stuck in a loop of feeling bad, having difficult days, struggling and all these things. And it can really feel, we're even sometimes told that there's something wrong with us, that that's not how we should be as human beings. And although I would agree that that isn't the way that we want to be, and that isn't what what this YouTube channel is about, what everything that I do is about, is pointing you towards that there isn't anything wrong with you here. There's just a misunderstanding, and learning to know and understand yourself is hugely the answer. So in that post, one of the things, a bit of it said, you don't have to do anything, just wait for this self-writing system to kick in. And I do know that it's not easy when you're feeling rubbish and the desire to feel better is really strong, to do nothing and wait to self-write. That's not always an easy thing to do, and especially, as I said, if you have been struggling for a while and that struggle just doesn't feel nice, because let's face it, it doesn't. But I found that the best thing that we can do, the best way to get around that, is to understand ourselves, to understand who we are and what's going on. Because it's hard to trust something when you don't understand. But when you know something, when you've learned to understand and you know something, then trust is like built into that knowing, if you like. Trust as a doing, just trying to make yourself trust something, a bit like blind faith. It isn't where it's at. But knowing, that's a whole different ball game. When we have looked at something and we understand and we know something, that gives us something else. That puts us in that's a whole different ball game, a whole different ballpark. Because we don't create through doing, we create through thought. Thought is at the source. Thought is where all creation starts, where all creation comes from. And I know sometimes when we're trying to push ourselves to do something, it doesn't really work, because that's not where creation is. And we create better things when we understand that, when we understand who we are and where our thinking comes from. And, because understanding allows us to access better thought. It opens our mind, it lifts us up to we tap into a different level of consciousness, and our thinking it becomes different. And for me, what I see is it all starts with knowing yourself. And that's what we're here for. So let's go back to why it is I know that there's nothing wrong with you if you feel bad. So let's look at how it is you work as a human being, where all feelings come from and all that jazz. So you're a dual being, you're a spiritual being on a human journey, although that's not exactly true. Those two things aren't separate. There is really only spiritual, a little bit like water can be steam, it can be ice, it can be water, it can be in different, it can be in a different state. So being human is just a different state of being spiritual. It's not something separate or different. But anyway, we're all just spiritual energy. That's a little bit of an aside. And it certainly feels, when we're here having a human experience, when we're a human being, it certainly feels like, that it doesn't feel like we're energy. It feels like we're a real solid something. But anyway, having a human experience only works one way, and it is because of that truth that I was sharing. It is because we are spiritual beings. We are energy. That's what we are. So human experience only works one way. No exceptions. There are never exceptions ever. And being human works from the inside out because of the fact that we are energy, because of the deeper truth of who we are. And this means that you live in the feeling of what you're thinking. That's how it works. So if you're having a bad day, what it means is that you are slap bang in the middle of some crappy thinking. That's what's going on. And the feeling that you're in, that the feeling, that is just simply informing you of that fact. It's telling you that your thinking is of a pretty low quality and not the kind of thinking that you want to pay too much attention to. And you'll likely notice that the more attention you give to your crappy feeling, your crappy thinking, the worse that you're going to feel. If we have a thought like, I'm not good enough, or I felt like this yesterday and it's getting worse, or this terrible thing is going on, if we have that thought and we think into it, we put our attention on it, we give it more attention, it just spirals us down. We get more and more of that. And if we take our attention away from it and think of something else, we feel differently. Now, all of this is an indication that you are working perfectly. A bit like a petrol light in your car. That petrol light comes on when your petrol is low. And if it didn't come on, that would be more of a problem. And the fact that it does come on and warn you about your petrol situation is actually helpful, because you know when to fill up. And when you feel bad, it's an indication, it's like a warning light that you're paying too much attention to the crappy thinking that you're having. And that's a good thing. That's helpful. We want that. We want that petrol light. I had a car once and the petrol light was faulty. So I had to make a note of when I might need petrol. And it was a real pain that I didn't have any indication. I didn't have a helpful guide that I could follow. So the fact that we have our feelings guide us. They are a guidance, and they are so super helpful. But it is just worth getting really clear and knowing what they're indicating. Because if your petrol light came on in your car and you went to fill up the oil, it wouldn't solve your problem. And one of the things that we do as human beings is, when we get into a bad feeling, we go out into the world and try and change a ton of our circumstances. And that's not where the problem is. This is what understanding our spiritual nature, why it's so important. That warning feeling, that warning light that has come on for us, is telling us to go inside, is telling us about the quality of the thinking that we are having. Because as I said, we don't create through doing. When we go out into the world and try and change a ton of our circumstances because of a bad feeling, all we do is move around what's already created. Whereas the invitation, the indication, is inviting you back inside to recreate with different thinking. That's what it's warning you. That's what it's telling you about. That's what this is for. That's what it's there for. And as I said, if you fill up your oil when your petrol light comes on, you're just not going to solve the problem. You're going to run out of petrol and find yourself stuck. So if you go and change a ton of your circumstances on the outside when you feel better, it's not going to solve the problem. It's just going to cycle back round, and it's going to come back again, because the invitation here is to go inside and recreate from the inside out. So and another really great thing when you do that, as soon as you feel better, if you understand this, you wait for your feeling to get better, or you just through understanding something happens for you. Once you feel better, if there is something that you need to be doing, if there is something on the outside that needs to be done, you will do it through inspired action, which is an entirely different way of being in the world. And you'll be in the place to do it. It won't be difficult. It will naturally happen through you. And you'll find that as your thinking rises, either once you feel better, the problem will have magically gone, along with the thinking that you were, paying attention to. That will either magically just have gone, or you will be taking inspired action to solve the problem, which, as I said, is an entirely different thing to misunderstanding what's being communicated to you. So it's a natural byproduct of understanding who you are, and this is how it works, and this is how you work. A natural byproduct of that is that your mind gets clearer, and you tend to get a lot less of this crappy thinking. It's just kind of what happens as you begin to understand. And it's a bit like if you're learning to swim, you don't want to learn to swim when you're drowning. That's not the best moment to pick. And looking to understand how you work when you're caught up in a whole lot of negative thoughts isn't the best time to do it either. So I would invite you to find a way to be a part of this conversation, to learn to understand the amazingness, the magic of you while you're not caught up, while you're not having a bad day. Because that's, it's much easier to learn from that place. Don't go away if you are having a bad day and think you absolutely can't do it, but just, stay in this conversation even on the good days. It's a really, really great conversation to be a part of. And if you enjoy the way I share, I've got a free mini course called The Magic of You that you can access. I'll put a link in the comments, and you can go and watch that and find out more about that. And it's a great way of being in this conversation. And also, if you're not already, do connect with me on Facebook. I'm quite active on there, and I love connecting with people. I love, sharing on there. So yeah, whatever. Have a fun day, and do drop a comment below this video to let me know if it's been helpful, because I will be making more videos, because I love to do it. I love to share. So have a great day. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye for now.